Hello, welcome to We Draw More. My name's Phil, and this is the second episode in the series where I look at the highest ranked cards on EDHREC, have a look at what makes them so highly ranked, and then try and pick something that's less built as an alternative and give you some suggestions and my thoughts about how you could play my alternative. In this episode, we're going to look at the number 2 ranked card on EDHREC, which is Edgar Markov. Edgar Markov is a legendary creature vampire knight. It is 3 colourless and red, white, black, and it has eminence, which means that it's no surprise that it is the second rank card. The first rank card also has Eminence. Eminence says whenever you cast another vampire spell, if Edgar Markov is in the command zone or on the battlefield, create a 1/1 black vampire creature token. Edgar also has First Strike and Haste, and has whenever Edgar Markov attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on each vampire you control. So from my perspective, if I'm reading this card, he doesn't have to be in play to generate me extra value from my vampires. I cast lots of reasonably cheap, I suppose, or reasonably powerful vampires, and every time I do, I get a free token to go along with it. Then when I'm ready, I can cast Edgar Markov. He has haste, so I can attack with him on that turn, and he'll put a +1/+1 counter of all the vampires I've got into play, and I can swarm my opponents. There are probably other ways to play him. You can make good use of those extra vampire creature tokens in black in various ways, but I think what you've got here are two things. You've got token generation and pump. What makes him so good is that his token generation happens in the command zone, so you don't actually have to cast him to get that effect. So there's various ways I could go. I could pick another popular vampire legendary creature, such as Olivia Valdarin. Olivia Valdarin is 2 black red. She's a legendary creature vampire, and flying. With 1 red, Olivia Valdarin deals 1 damage to another creature. That creature becomes a vampire in addition to its other types. Put a +1/+1 counter on Olivia Valdarin. And 3 black, again control target vampire for as long as you control Olivia Valdarin. So Olivia's playstyle is, one, she's slightly Voltron because you're pumping her and making her bigger so she can deal excessive amounts of commander damage if that's the way you want to go. But the alternative way to go, and it's kind of an expensive way of doing it, but you can actually steal your opponent's creatures. That's a very different playstyle to Edgar Markov. So I thought about Olivia Valdarin and I discounted her immediately. Another option to Edgar Markov in similar colours is Marthas, Fiendseeker. Marcus is red, white, black. He's a legendary creature vampire and has Menace, which is good evasion. At the beginning of your end step, put a bounty counter on target creature an opponent controls. For as long as that creature has a bounty counter on it, it has. When this creature dies, each opponent draws a card and gains 2 life. So Mathis is kind of group huggy. You put a bounty counter on one of your opponent's creatures. When that creature dies, it then lets you and that player's other opponents draw a card and gain 2 life. So you can build an interesting deck around that. You can do things like goad and various other bits and bobs, whereby you're getting your opponents to attack each other, getting them to kill each other's creatures, and then you're gaining 2 life and you're drawing cards, but so are your opponents. So you have to be careful with it. But I can see it being an interesting, fun build. It's very different, but it's definitely not Edgar Markov either. So I had a good look round, and there's a lot of choices. Well, I finally settled on Elenda and Azor. Elenda and Azor is 3 colourless, white, blue, black. So we're swapping red for blue in this case. They are a legendary creature vampire knight sphinx. They are a 6/6 body, so they're actually bigger than Edgar Markov. They have flying, decent evasion, and ward 2, which is reasonable built-in protection. They also have, whenever Elenda and Azor attacks, you may pay X, white, blue, black. If you do, draw X cards. I think as a cost for drawing cards when you're playing white, blue and black, that's expensive. There are much better ways to be drawing cards in those colours, and if your pockets are deep enough, you can be playing things like Esper Sentinel or Rhystic Study or Consecrated Sphinx, and you could be drawing no end of cards. No doubt there are a lot of other expensive ways of doing it as well. So I wouldn't be using that to draw cards, but if you really have nothing else to do with your mana, you can use it. But better yet, the second paragraph of text on the Elenda and Azor reads, at the beginning of each end step, you may pay 4 life. If you do, create a number of 1/1 black vampire knight creature tokens with lifelink equal to the number of cards you've drawn this turn. So let's say I drew my card for turn. I managed to draw a couple of extra cards. Let's say I played Ponder, draw 3 cards. So I've drawn 4 cards this turn. Come to the end of the turn, I pay 4 life, and I get 4 1/1 black knight vampire creature tokens with lifelink. Next turn, if I attack with those, it's likely I'll get that 4 life back. So there's a good little cycle you can do there, and it's important to note that if you really have it set up correctly, you can do this on each end step. So we've already spoken about lifelink, and one of the most important things I think you need in the Elender and Azor deck is a way to gain life. You're going to be spending 4 life probably every end step if you set it up correctly, and that will eat your life total very quickly. And I know life is just a resource, but if you're being attacked and your life is being hit by other sources, eventually you're going to find yourself running out of life. Now, it's a good thing that your vampire tokens have lifelink, and a lot of other vampires themselves have lifelink. No less than Elender the Dusk Rose, 2 colourless white black, legendary creature vampire knight, lifelink. And they have, whenever another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Elender the Dusk Rose. When Elender dies, create X 1/1 white vampire creature tokens with lifelink, where X is Elender's power. So if you're attacking with your tokens to get that life back, they're likely dying, and when they die, you'll be pumping Elender. And then eventually, if Elender does get taken out, you'll just be rewarded with lots of white vampire creature tokens. The next card I found in my hunt for lifelinking vampires doesn't actually have lifelink. They are Baron Bertram Greywater. They again are 2 colourless white-black. This time they're a legendary creature vampire noble, and they have a 3/4 body. And they have, whenever 1 or more tokens enter the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 black vampire rogue creature token with lifelink. This ability triggers only once each turn. They also have 1 black, sacrifice another creature or artifact, draw a card. So this card synergizes really well with both Elender and Azor and Elender the Dusk Rose. First of all, it's a sack outlet, and it's a reusable sack outlet. 1 black, sacrifice another creature or artifact, : There's no tap there. We can use that whenever we want to. It's an instant. Draw a card. So if we wanted to, we could use it on another player's turn. And when we do so, we sacrifice another creature, usually a token, and draw a card. When we do that, Elender the Dusk Rose will gain a +1/+1 counter. Then, as they move to their end step, we can pay 4 life. Elender and Azor will at least create 1 token because we did actually at least draw 1 card. And if we've created 1 token, Baron Bertram also says whenever 1 or more tokens enter the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 black vampire rogue creature token. So we gain another token. Okay, it only triggers once per turn, but in this case, that's enough. We're getting 2 tokens for the price of 1. The more tokens we produce with Elender and Azor, the less extra value we get from Baron and Bertram, but every time we're getting an extra token, it's a free token. We're not complaining. And at a pinch, if we needed to, we could use Baron to sacrifice Elender and gain all those creature tokens with lifelink. The next card I came across was Clavileno, First of the Blessed. Hopefully I've said that right. I've got no idea. I presume it's kind of a Spanish pronunciation, but Clavileno will do. We have 1 colourless white-black for a legendary creature vampire cleric, and they are a 2/2. And they have quite a lot of text. They have, whenever you attack, target attacking vampire that isn't a demon becomes a demon in addition to its other types. That little bit isn't particularly relevant. It is the second part of this that is really important. You really want to read this as, whenever you attack, target attacking vampire gains, when this creature dies, draw a card and create a tapped 4/3 white and black vampire demon creature token with flying. So let's say we're attacking with a couple of tokens. The 1/1s, they've got lifelink. We nominate 1 and it gets blocked, it dies. It has, when this creature dies, draw a card, so we draw a card. We also create a tapped 4/3 white and black vampire demon creature token with flying. If we can do that while we've got Baron in play, Baron will also create another 1/1 creature token. We could also sack that 1/1 creature token to draw another card. We now draw 2 cards. We draw 1 for turn, and Elender and Azor then, at the end of the turn, we pay 4 life and we get 4 tokens. In addition to this, we've now got quite a nice 4/3 white and black vampire demon creature token with flying, which is a bigger body and it has flying, so it has decent evasion. So we're starting to build up a lot of synergies with these cards, and it's one thing I really liked as I was going through theory crafting what I would do when I was putting the deck together. The next card I thought about adding to the deck is a little bit on the expensive side for what it does, I believe. Crossway Troublemakers. 5 colourless, 1 black. Creature vampire. Attacking vampires you control have death touch and lifelink. Whenever a vampire you control dies, you may pay 2 life. If you do, draw a card. So we've got this situation here now where if we're using Baron to sack a creature to draw a card, we can pay an additional 2 life and draw another card. That then feeds back to Elender and Azor, who then will be able to produce us more tokens to be able to sack to draw more cards. In addition to this, Crossway Troublemakers gives our vampires both Death Touch and Lifelink. Now the 4/3 white and black vampire demon creature tokens with flying that are created by Clavileno do not have Lifelink. So this is a great way of giving them both Death Touch and Lifelink, and they've already got flying. Your opponents are going to be really reticent to block them, and they become quite a decent beat stick. But they could become a better beat stick. And now I know we are looking at building a Lender and Azor as a replacement for Baron Markov, but what if we included Markov Baron? Markov Baron is 2 colourless and black, but it has Convoke. So your creatures can help cast a spell. Each creature you tap while casting this spell plays for 1 colourless or 1 mana of that creature's colour. So we could tap 3 of our tokens and play this effectively for 3. It has Lifelink. We're looking for vampires with Lifelink. It's got a 2/2 body, so it's not the biggest creature. It doesn't have any colour evasion either, but it has other vampires you control get +1/+1. So this is a sort of an archetypal lord, in this case for vampires, where we just tap a few tokens and we get it into play for free. And all of a sudden our 4/3 vampire flyers are now 5/4. And they also have Death Touch and Lifelink, and so they've suddenly become a lot more dangerous. We don't need to just stop there with the Anthem effects. You remember Baron Markov himself was going to pump our vampire tokens, and so if we want to be able to also put +1/+1 counters on all our vampire creature tokens, we can play cards like Cordial Vampire. Cordial Vampire, 2 black, 1/1, creature vampire. Whenever Cordial Vampire or another creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on each vampire you control. We've already talked about having sack outlets, like Baron, where we can sack our tokens as they die. This means we're putting +1/+1 counters on each vampire we control. We can stack those effects to make sure that we're getting our 4/3 vampire bodies into play. We can put +1/+1 counters on them. They will be growing, and they are also our beat sticks. So we are finding ourselves in a stronger position when we're synergizing between all these cards. And when you're building a commander deck, what you really want is strong synergies between all these cards. You need to be able to look at a card, what is this doing for me? If I play this, what am I hoping to be able to get out of it? What am I getting for my 2 black mana? You're getting a poor body, but a great effect. Another card in a similar vein, just for 1 black this time for a 1/1 Vampire Noble, who has Lifelink, but I don't think you're ever going to attack with them, has 2, sacrifice a creature. So again, they're another sack outlet. Put a +1/+1 counter on each vampire you control. The more tokens we have in play, the better this effect is. We're paying 2 mana, so we do need it to be a reasonably decent effect. We're sacking a creature, and we're going to put +1/+1 counters on each vampire creature we control. And we can use that anytime. We could use it at the beginning of the end step of the player before a turn to pump up our creatures, and then the next turn we untap and we send all our creatures over, get lots of lifelink, do lots of damage, possibly win the game. So we've talked about sack outlets, and I can't do this video without talking about some kind of aristocrats package in the deck. You've got classics like Blood Artist, which I think says whenever a creature dies, you gain 1 life and target opponent loses 1 life. But we also have Mirkwood Bats. Mirkwood Bats is 3 colourless, 1 black. It's a creature bat, it has flying. It's not a vampire, I admit, but it's a 2/3 creature, and it has, whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life. So if they let Mirkwood Bats hang around for any period of time, they are going to feel the pain. Because at the very least, you're going to pay 4 life at the end of the turn this comes into play. You probably would have drawn a few cards. At the minimum, you've drawn 1. So at the very minimum, they're going to lose 1 life, but they're likely to be losing lots more. A Lender and Azor gives us blue, and the question starts to become, well, what are we doing with the blue? There are precious few blue vampires in Magic the Gathering. Blue gives us access to some really cool cards. And even if we can't afford to play things like Rhystic Study, even if we're building this on a budget, one card that I understand has come down a little bit in price recently, but would be really great in this deck is Kindred Discovery. Kindred Discovery is an enchantment that costs 3 colourless and 2 blue, and reads, as Kindred Discovery enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. Vampires. Whenever a creature you control of the chosen type enters the battlefield or attacks, draw a card. You don't have to be dealing damage to your opponent like some cards like Bident the Thassa might require. This is whenever they come into play or whether they attack, we get to draw a card. Now, there's a little bit of false synergy there because, of course, at the end step, we're putting tokens into play. That will cause us to draw cards. But the next turn, as I've been saying quite frequently, we're going to attack with those tokens. We don't really want those tokens hanging around. We want them to be gaining this life. So we want to be attacking with them. Even if we're walking into a wall, we want to be attacking with them. And when we attack with them, we'll get to draw more cards. And then we'll get to create more tokens. So once we get into this situation where we're drawing cards, we're attacking with our creatures, we're sacking our creatures, we're moving to our end step, we're creating more tokens, there's this cycle that you can see going on that we're building up, this mechanism of how our turn will flow and the benefits we're getting from the different cards that we'll have in play. Another card that I think is really strong, and I think it's an end game card, and I'll tell you why in a second, is Moonlit Meditation. Moonlit Meditation is 2 colorless blue. Enchantment Aura. Enchant artifact or creature you control. The first time you would create 1 or more tokens each turn, you may instead create that many tokens that are copies of enchanted permanent. So, what do we cast that on? What card could we put in our deck that would give us the biggest effect for our buck, if you like, for our dollar? And I think that card is Malakir Bloodwitch. Malakir Bloodwitch is 3 colorless, 2 black. It's a creature vampire shaman on a 4/4 body, has flying and protection from white. Not bad actually as protection goes. When Malakir Bloodwitch enters the battlefield, each opponent loses life equal to the number of vampires you control. You gain life equal to the life lost this way. So if I understand this correctly, you play Malakir Bloodwitch and you play Moonlit Meditation on Malakir Bloodwitch and you move to your end step. Now it matters how many cards you've drawn this turn. Let's say we've drawn a card for turn, we've played something like Ponder, that's got Moonlit Meditation into our hand, that's how we've managed to play it onto Malakir Bloodwitch. We pay 4 life, we create 4/1/1 vampires. They all turn into Malakir Bloodwitch. Now, the original Malakir Bloodwitch we played would have probably just done 2 points of damage in this situation, and we would have gained 2 life. Now we've got 6 vampires in play, and those 4 Malakir Bloodwitches see themselves, and they see both the other vampires. So that's 6 vampires times 4, that's 24 life you're doing to each of your opponents, and you're gaining 3 times 24, which is what, 72. If you have a couple more vampires in play, which is likely when you try to do this, then you're talking about 32 life. Any more than that, it's an instant game over. But even at 32 life, it's likely that your opponents will have paid life to do effects like shock lands and fetch lands, and it's likely they will have been attacked and their life will not be on 40, unless they're playing a life gain deck, which is not the most popular format to play. So at that point, you kill everybody, you'll win the game, which is why I think Moonlit Meditation on the right cards is a game ender. Even on Mirkwood Bats, which is whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life, you're still going to have a significant effect. But I think Malakir Bloodwitch is by far and away the best card to play in this situation. So those are some of the cards that I would put in my Elenda and Azor deck. I do have a deck on Architect, so I will put a link to that in the comments if you want to go and have a look at it. It is a budget deck. All my builds are aimed at people playing with a budget, so you won't find the expensive cards in here that would really make this deck sing. If you have liked this, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you would play a different alternative to Edgar Markov, I'd love to hear what it is and why. Put that in the comments for me. And don't forget to join me next time when we look at another top-ranked EDH commander and come up with some suggestions of what to play instead of them.